Coming at you live, covering all things professional wrestling. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, joined by Debhausen the Great and Powerful, and John in South Jersey from South Jersey. What's up?
The suburbs, the shadow of Philadelphia. Hey, what's going on?
Tons of shit. It was a busy week. A lot of stuff going on.
Was it really?
I mean,
yeah.
Watching wrestling.
Yeah.
We're always watching wrestling. That's what we do.
This is true. All right, so before we get started, my t-shirts of the night. I'm trying to pay attention to t-shirts when we do the show. I've got my Victor Benjamin Savage Gentleman shirt on.
Ooh,
and
cyan shirt. Yes.
Yep. The Speculate Wildly shirt from friend of the show, Sam Roberts. We're going to speculate wildly tonight, so strap up.
Yes.
Buckle in, kids.
I have my Nation's Corner One Love shirt.
Nice.
Courtesy of Sean in New Orleans, formerly of New Orleans, whatever. Yes. One Love.
He's now been designated to parts unknown.
Parts unknown. Okay.
I think I have his address. I know where he lives.
I do not have a t-shirt of the night. I just have a plain black one because I showered and dressed in a hurry just to make sure I was here on time.
Well, you were the working man today.
I was. And I guess be glad that I showered because there was a lot of frustration that came off with some dirt and sweat, especially after today. So
yes, I'm sure. Yes.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss of patience.
Fucking kids.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say. Fucking kids.
All right, so let's talk positive stuff then. A lot of stuff happened this week with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, lots of AEW stuff, but I have to start with the show that I was looking forward to the most for weeks, and that was this week's NXT in the ECW arena. And John, I want to get your thoughts on it because you being an ECW fan original, I want to get your sort of perspective on the hits and misses. But for me, as somebody who's been there exactly one time, but it was really cool time. I thought they did a really good job of representing the history with peppering in the right legends where stories made sense. They didn't just overload you with a bunch of names just to have them on TV. So I really enjoyed the show, and bookending the show with an incredible hardcore women's match and that 10 woman match at the end. It made a statement that NXT, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, NXT is and always has, in my mind, had one of the strongest women's divisions. Women's I won't say division. I don't like that word. I'm going to start saying women's rosters on the planet. So, Deb, I want to get your thoughts, and then John, I want you to dive in a little bit.
Well, for me, and you guys know I'm not a regular NXT viewer, especially since it was on at the same time as AEW. You know, I chose to watch AEW primarily. I did have NXT up kind of like on the side of my computer screen here, just minimized to like half the screen. I had it on mute, and I unmuted during certain times of something that I really wanted to actually listen to. But overall, from what I saw, it looked like an amazing show. You know, we got some great appearances from some legends. I think anytime any wrestling show is at the ECW arena, the crowd's just going to be hot. And this was a special show. There was all this chatter of who's going to win the night and everything. And I think it was a no-brainer that NXT was going to win. It was a special show in a special place full of nostalgia. There were legends making appearances. I just thought overall great job done.
Yeah. And John, before we dive in, I just want to address one thing. And Steven in the chat says NXT should have started off with Paul Heyman. I will disagree 100%. As much as I would love to have seen him, they have 4 and change years dedicated to the biggest pro wrestling story maybe of all time, you don't spoil the wise man's return with some random NXT episode. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
I agree.
Well, overall, just excellent show, top to bottom. The one thing I'll say in general was everybody, workers, performers, staff, fans, everybody understood the assignment, understood the gravity of the night and the arena.
Mhm.
Made the whole old bingo hall look really good.
Yeah.
And again, they made it look bigger than it actually is. And that's
Yeah.
something that I have heard time and time again from you guys and just random people, including my own daughter, who said, I thought it would be bigger. No, we used to cram 1,300 people into a space not designed in any way, shape, or form for 12 or 1,300 people. But
Yeah, don't tell the Philadelphia Fire Company that.
Hey, I'm not saying that there's been nights in the past where doors may have been barred so they couldn't come in or blocked somehow. Well, maybe the statute of limitations is up. I don't know, but I'm not going to.
We know.
I ain't a rat. I ain't copping anything. But yes,
Look how Nunzio come after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, be
that
careful.
perfect example of that. A lot of the big name ECW talent, or ones you would like to have seen for one reason or another, aren't available or wouldn't
Right.
have fit. You have to remember this wasn't an ECW reunion show or tribute show.
True. Very true.
This was NXT in the ECW arena. So I was okay with what and who and what they had and had them doing in that, because it wasn't really about, they enhanced the story, but it's still NXT's weekly television show. So those things should almost always take precedence over whatever else they want to do. The only thing I would have did different is, and those who have watched any of the old ECW hardcore TV, they would always have Paul in the ring at the very beginning of the show and saying, "This is the ECW arena at beautiful South Philadelphia." And the crowd, all of us in the crowd, absolutely losing our minds. Or the night that Doink the Clown came in and did like a run-in and got beat up. And then Paul putting the microphone right down in his face and saying, "This ain't no fucking circus." Well, they obviously dubbed fucking, but and then he looks up at the camera and says, "This is ECW." And then they go into the show open, which again, kudos to WWE. That show open that they did for NXT with the original ECW open music and splicing in old clips with new current stuff was absolutely fantastic. It let you know, even if you hadn't heard any of the hype or any of the comments or anything about this, it gave you that feel that, ooh, this is something special. And I need to watch this. So it was great to see who we saw. You know, obviously our connection with Bully or Bubba. Devon was a fantastic surprise. I thought Nunzio and Tony Mama Luke, who now look old, and but to the credit, man, Nunzio still can go. He's still the Sicilian shooter, and you know, and him and Tony D had a good, entertaining match. Lola Vice and Jada Parker are my absolute heroes and MVPs for that night. God damn, they beat the hell out of each other, and not really too much on the gimmicks as you would think, but man, both of them understood that where they were and what kind of match they wanted to bring and had to bring, being a hardcore match. And kudos to them. I'm sure both of them were very sore and very beat up the next day, but man, it was worth it. It was a fantastic show.
Yeah, so John, I want to land on that for a second, because I took some notes on this one, because I felt like being in the ECW arena, or what some people call the 2300 arena. We don't
Not me.
here.
No.
Not here. No. But you wanted to set the tone, and instead of just coming in and doing, we're gonna do a table spot, we're gonna do a couple of things to a nod to ECW. They were like, screw that. We're gonna beat the shit out of each other, and we're going to have a match, follow that match that, knowing who else is on the roster and who else was there as veterans, they did have the type of match that they could look at all of those people in the eye and say, follow that shit. Like, we just did an ECW style match in the ECW arena that isn't as over the top because for TV, and that's not the product that they have. I felt like it was as close to an ECW match as we will see in NXT. And I think they said it was the first women's hardcore match in NXT history. Which is the perfect place to do it there. So I will echo your sentiments. Like those two women not only understood the assignment, but man, they made a statement as far as I'm concerned, because that's what NXT women do.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of statements, and of the very best, period, anywhere in a match together. Wow.
Saying hi, Sam. Sorry.
Sam.
Sam.
But wow, that 10-woman match was something special, and it's very easy to have multiple people matches go kind of wonky and astray. But again, they understood the assignment. Everybody got their shit in. Everybody had a chance to shine on both sides. Tremendous action in between everything. And, besides that, you could look at it many different ways. NXT originals, so to speak, in Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Fatal Influence, except for Jasmine Nix, who is newer, but all four of them are easy, Neil. Easy. Take a drink.
Yes, Neil, we know you like Julie and Stephanie. We know.
But again,
we know. We get it.
On the other team, and I'll have my thirsty moment in a second here, but yes, you had Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Zaria, aka Beltha, who is brand new. Kalani Jordan, who got tremendous shine, not only from Rob Van Dam early in the night, but actually had a very impressive showing in the match. And my thirsty moment, the former TNA Knockouts champion, my girl, the juggernaut, Jordan Grace.
Yes.
Which,
love her.
She came in. There's a clip that's been going around where Jordan finally made the hot tag and got in. And she wrecks all 5 of those women in the span of about 15 seconds and makes you understand that Jordan Grace is legit. Jordan Grace can absolutely do whatever she wants in the ring and absolutely look amazing doing it.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask Deb, go ahead.
Real quick, before your point. Speaking of Jordan Grace, just a funny little thing that happened to me there the other day. I was sitting at work, and on the work desktop computer, there's MSN news blurb that you can pull up from the corner of the screen, and I'm just scrolling through all the nonsense that's on there, this stupid, clickbaity crap. And then there's this one that says 25 pictures you won't believe are real, and the thumbnail that they use is a Jordan Grace before and after pic.
Oh yeah,
and obviously that caught my eye, and I was like, oh yes, my God, Jordan Grace. But it's so insane that she her picture is in one of those stupid internet clickbaity things. That was just so funny. Anyway, go ahead, Front Row.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. So you as a TNA fan, we've seen this crossover, and when it was announced that Jordan was going to be part of this match, I was like, okay, this is interesting. My understanding is she's still contracted to TNA. This isn't a title match, but they're inserting her. They inserted her in this incredibly high profile, what ended up being the main event of one of the most watched NXT shows. So for you as a TNA fan, where do you want to see them go with her?
Well, I think it's, kind of the foregone conclusion that once her TNA contract runs out, she will be an NXT talent. So I think they're doing a great job of continuing to keep her like in the minds of the NXT fans. So that when next year comes and, they announce that she's signed there, people already know who she is. And they're familiar with her. So that being said, I think they're just doing a great job so far of kind of the placement of her. She's not there every week. It's only for these kind of big matches that she makes an appearance. And I think that keeps her special in a sense because she's not a contracted talent for them yet. So that keeps her special. And I really don't know where they're going to go with it, but I'm interested to see how it's handled, the transition from TNA to NXT, as far as how she leaves TNA and what kind of, potential rivalry or whatever she may have in NXT.
Well, and we saw that interaction with her and Zarya, right? So
Yeah.
there's an open question mark there too.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the TNA side, we have already kind of seen that. You have the new TNA Knockouts champion in Masha
Yes.
Sami. Yay.
Yeah.
But that kind of seems to me is the first domino to fall.
I think once she lost that championship, everybody was like, all right, that makes sense.
This
is how it's going.
It's the plan has been put into motion, let's say.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And of course, we're going to watch and see how it actually plays out and her inevitable debut, so to speak, as an NXT talent. But in the meantime, we'll just enjoy it and wish her well and keep watching.
Exactly.
But this is the excitement of all of it. Like, I'm sorry, just real quick, the excitement about what you just said. Masha Slamovich is the new Knockouts champion. We could easily see her pop up in NXT next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Deb.
Yeah. No, I think that's that's the beauty of it, is that with this partnership, they are able to kind of have that transition, get the NXT crowd familiar with this talent who's really only been known outside of the WWE. And if she's going into, a little bit of a rivalry with Zarya, if that's what they're hinting at, that's perfect. That's two powerhouse women that are relatively unknown to the NXT diehards. And, they've both come in and made a splash. The NXT fans now know that these are two women that are going to be important on the roster.
And let me just a quick side note on that. Do we really need two jacked, crazy Australian chicks in WWE?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
we do.
All right. Okay. Because I'm here for it. Don't get me wrong.
There's no such thing as too much birthday.
I guess you're absolutely right.
Just ask my friend Katie Linendahl. Too much birthday is not a thing. Okay,
That's
so
very true.
I know we got a ton of stuff I know you guys want to get to, but we have to talk about our very own Bully Ray. We are fans of Bully Ray. We've had opportunities to interact with him personally. Good dude. In the ring, terrifying. I would never want him to be mad at me. But he arrived as a babyface as a busted open representative. The whole story with Ridge Holland, he stayed a babyface through the whole thing, through the whole match. There was no turn. I think a lot of us sort of anticipated that the Bully character was going to come out. We only saw Bubba. We saw the Bubba Ray. I'm here. Devon was a surprise. All that stuff was really cool. Now's the time where we speculate wildly.
Okay.
I don't think Bully's done in NXT.
No. This isn't over, as evidenced by the fact that on Thursday on Busted Open. No. Yes, Thursday on
It was,
Busted
'cause
Open
Nick
with
was
Dave
on.
and Nick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Dave called out Ridge Holland, or
Rich,
as he
Rich.
thought his name was Rich.
Yeah.
And
Rich
by the
Holland.
way, if you watch the clip on Busted Open socials of when Dave was calling out Ridge Holland, the moment Dave says, "I thought his name was Rich," just the look on Nick's face is brilliant. But But yeah, I think that this is far from over. This is obviously going to continue. I would love to see Ridge Holland come on Busted Open and on a day that Bully is on, just like Dave said, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So, John, I want to ask you a quick question. So, I know we talk about this a lot on Zoom, but we sort of speculated: are we ever going to see the actual Bully Ray character in NXT? From a licensing perspective, it's interesting because he can license the likeness and all that stuff to WWE, and he'll make shit tons of money off of the use of the Bully Ray name in WWE. Right? The way that all works is favorable to wrestlers where it wasn't before. They don't have to sign over their lives. Anyway, all that to say, would it make sense or do you think that they'll just always stick with the old Bubba Ray? Because to me, Bully Ray is like the ultimate expression of the heel character. Like, I think Bully Ray is what heel Bubba and ECW would have eventually become if that had stayed a thing.
Yeah.
Like the evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. You have equity in many forms in the Bubba Ray Dudley name and character. However, if they're going to go forward with this Ridge and Bubba thing, I think he should use Bully Ray, because that's the modern interpretation now. Because it's not just Bubba Ray Dudley, one half of the greatest, most decorated tag team, yada yada. It's
don't forget Calfzilla and a damn handsome man.
That too, but Bully Ray is a co-host of Busted Open. That Ridge Holland went out and interrupted their live feed at the PLE and started all this drama. So it'd be cool to say, oh, it's Bubba versus Ridge, but I would rather see no. That was then. This is right now. Now you get Bully Ray, and now let them go and roll with that.
Yeah, because that's an interesting way to look at it, because they've given us Bubba Ray, but if they have a backstage segment where Bully is just so angry and he shows up backstage in the Bully Ray, the jacket, the whole deal, not the camos, not the Bubba Ray, not the Dudley stuff, and he goes, you know what? I'm Bully Ray, or he says, call me Bully Ray, or something, like puts the cap on. Right, there's a transformation of some sort.
Yes.
But I do think, Deb, you're 100% right. They're not letting this go, so they're not moving on from it. No, clearly, there's more in store.
Yeah, they have.
All right,
it has legs.
Yeah. There's a bunch of other stuff that happened. It was awesome. I really hope that they come back to that arena. They talked about
maybe I'll get tickets faster than being sold out in 5 minutes this time.
Yeah,
or next time.
There's that.
I doubt it, but.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I was genuinely bummed out because I'm like, John needs to be there, and I wish you had been able to go, but we got to enjoy it together on Zoom, so there's that, and it was awesome. But I have heard some rumblings that there are more TNA stars that may cross over, maybe even some former WWE people. So we'll wait and see how that all pans out. I'm going to sort of combine Raw and SmackDown for a second, because the Bloodline storyline this week was really intriguing for a number of reasons. We have Sami Zayn back in the mix. We had Sami on Raw, and Jay invites him to SmackDown to come and talk to Roman, and that all transpires. Everything goes down on SmackDown. We have Sami and Jay in the ring with Roman and Jimmy, which is really cool. And then, Sami says, I want an apology from you, and I want it for Jay, and that whole thing happened. So I'm interested to get your perspective on, like, because Sami came back and they sort of pitched him as being on Solo's side, and for a moment I was like, all right, well, he was in the parking lot, I guess that makes sense. And then he turns, and it felt really quick to me, but I don't know. So how are you guys feeling about the way that Sami's returned? And do you think there's going to be are they going to stay as a group going into War Games?
I really, really enjoyed the way it was done on SmackDown. I missed the beginning of SmackDown. I was on my way home from work. But the ending, yeah, I thought that was very, very well executed. The kind of like double turn. It was like,
Yeah.
no, he's over here. No,
Pretty much.
no, wait, no, no, he's really over here. No,
No,
wait,
no.
he's over here. But yeah, I really liked that. I thought it was well done. I thought we always hear people talk about Sami with this. You know, he spent the first half of his career under a mask, and now
Viva Hell Hananico.
now
I have no
we've
idea what you're talking
really
about.
seen like how well he can emote, how well he can, you know, really convey the story that they're telling in just his face. He's just so good. I do think that Sami, the Usos, and Roman will stay together for War Games. You know, we've been talking about War Games since WrestleMania. and
Yes.
and Friday was the moment where we were all like,
Hey!
there it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Again, we are on record and more. When yes, he's in an orphanage, Neil. We know. Again, the threading of the story and adding same players. Think about it. Rewind back a year and a half, 2 years ago. Same players. The Usos, Roman, Sami. But now a new wrinkle because it's the same story and the same inevitable thing that we all thought it was going to come to, but how they're getting there. That is what's absolutely keeping you in and wondering and speculating wildly even. Because yes, because it's not, first and foremost, we're seeing a part of Roman that we haven't seen in for 4 years. Roman is vulnerable. He is a tribal chief without a tribe. And even Solo said it on Friday night. He needs people. They need to even up the teams, so to speak. So you have this conflict with Roman. You have Sami, who is absolutely one of these guys that just with a microphone can absolutely pull you and an audience in and be hanging on his every word. And, you have different elements that are absolutely selling all this. Is Sami really going to be with the Usos and Roman? Does he have some sort of an arrangement or agreement with Solo and the new bloodline? Where does this all fit in? And it's not, we know what the outcome is. The outcome obviously is going to be, and I'll say it, I'll speculate wildly. I'm pretty sure we're going to see old bloodline versus new bloodline in War Games come Survivor Series.
Well, they said that. They said that on the show. So Sam brings up a good question. Is it going to be 4-4? Because at the end of SmackDown, we saw Jimmy J, Sami, and Roman holding up the 1. So that's 4. And then they have 4 on the new bloodline. Is it going to be an addition? Is there going to be an addition of one person to each team? I don't personally think that it's time for The Rock to return. I don't think that it makes any sense to put him in a War Games match. I think The Rock is too big a deal, and he is a WrestleMania season player. He is going to be re-engaged. To use a business term. He's going to be re-engaged around Rumble time and then the road to WrestleMania and the build of those stories. But is it possible for him to make an appearance and lend something in a segment? Sure, that's fine. I just don't see him in the ring.
No.
So that begs the question, right? Because I know we've talked about this a lot too. There's rumors of signings of other bloodline members, whether Hikuleo and people like that. You go, all right, but those people aren't seasoned professionals. They may be too new. I don't know. I don't wrestle, but from what I hear from the experts, they're like, maybe he's too new. But also, I don't want to see all these extra people brought in. I kind of like the players that they have in the story right now. So my vote, if anybody cared, would be to do a 4-on-4 with who they have currently.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
What do you
agree with
guys
that.
think?
I'll co-sign with that.
Yeah.
Because yes, traditional war games and Survivor Series is 5-on-5, but and yes, I agree 100%. I just don't want to see an additional person run in on either side just to make it 5-on-5 without any. And not saying that WWE would do that just for the sake to make it traditional.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with 4-on-4 because you only have what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
2 or 3. I think maybe 3 episodes of SmackDown, maybe.
yeah, to Survivor
most,
Series. Yeah. So if you were going to do it, and then again, if they continued with that last night per se, would we have had the beauty shot of the 4 of them standing side by side, one's up in the air, to finish out SmackDown last night, or would it cheapen that? Because now you're not looking at that, you're looking at, well, who's the 5th person, and I don't think that's the way they want to go.
Yeah, and this is where things get further complicated, because one of the reasons why I absolutely love SmackDown last night is the way that they threaded stories throughout the show. They threaded the Bloodline story throughout the show. They threaded the tag team division and the women's division stories through the show. They had a big announcement, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Devin, I know you said you missed the early part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Owens attacked Randy Orton, beat the shit out of Randy Orton, and then gave him a pile driver on TV.
Yes,
which we don't ever see. To me, people go, "Oh, we see that elsewhere." I'm like, yeah, but that's not elsewhere. WWE does not allow pile drivers. He gave Randy Orton a pile driver in the middle of the ring, and Randy was escorted out, or not escorted. He was carted out on a gurney and all that, with Cody Rhodes at his side. So to me, Cody is in that story with Randy and Kevin and that whole thing. I don't see any need to have Cody shoehorned into the Bloodline storyline, although he's a big star, but it doesn't make sense for the story that they have right now. So I don't know if we're talking about the bad guy side. The good guy side would also need another person. I don't see anybody obvious.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Neil and John in the chat were saying Hikuleo or Lance Hawaii. I just think those names, while they will be, I'm assuming they will be brought in at some point. I think for right now, just for the purpose of Survivor Series, I don't think they're well enough known names to really make a splash as like the final member of this team for Survivor Series.
No, Steve's just fantasy booking the whole match.
Yes. Open your pencil, Steve. No, go ahead. Talk your shit. No, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sure Steve will come up with some weird ass idea that would make perfect sense.
As he usually does.
And probably be better than what actually happened.
Probably. And may I add that while we were standing in line outside the ECW arena, Steve had us in stitches because he's one of the funniest people I know.
Steve,
he kept us well entertained.
For those who don't know Steve is one of the funniest people alive.
Yes.
It's very true.
And possibly smartest.
and still has to come on and tell his MJF story at some point.
Yes. We gotta book him. What's his booking fee?
I don't know. We'll have to get our people to talk to his people.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out who the promoter is.
But that was super interesting that they used a pile driver, something that's not. I mean, we know Undertaker and Kane are like 2 of the only people that are allowed to use it, and they're not, in the mix anymore. So to see that on TV, I was like, it's like the occasional use of blood. You're like, oh shit. Like it definitely caught me. I'm like, oh man. And Randy's much bigger than Kevin. So for him to do that safely, kudos, because it was really well done. And then all of the stuff that happened, and they said Randy's on his way to the hospital.
So it's real. Not a medical facility.
That's when shit's real.
Not a medical facility.
And they said hospital like 3 times.
Oh, and a quick side note.
It almost felt like they were emphasizing the word actually.
Yes.
If you go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
If the Nation's Corner Racing Medical Advisor, hint, hint, is in the chat tonight, please chime in with commentary.
Yeah. What was 0 to 10? How successful were they in getting him out safely and bringing him to the medical attention? But I thought that was really cool. I thought that was interesting use. We saw the Motor City Machine Guns defend their titles, and next week it looks like they're going to defend against the Street Profits. And I know, John, you specifically are a huge tag team advocate, and I feel like they've done a really good job of bringing them onto TV, making them feel important, especially through social media posts and what Nick Aldis has said, but also that they're putting them up against credible people, getting credible wins. They're building these guys up really quickly.
Yes, they have absolutely hit the ground running with Motor City Machine Guns. And I think it's fantastic because rising tide raises all ships. And for the first time in a while, tag team wrestling in general, men's side and women's side, is being talked about and being featured and being showcased more. So, and I think it's all great. And I can't think of a better team. The problem with WWE, and this is true for really any organization, is after a certain point, especially with tag teams, it's hard to keep it fresh. You can have the breakup, the get back together, all that in between. But for quite a while, we have seen the same tag teams. The New Day, the Street Profits, returning War Raiders now. But here's brand new, fresh blood, and they're absolutely capitalizing it on it with the Machine Guns. You're seeing fresh matchups. You're seeing a total reinvigoration of tag team wrestling, especially on the men's side. And now it's kind of showing that, this stuff can be just as good as any singles match. And, let's see. Hopefully it continues.
Yeah. I know we were talking about it a little bit last night on Zoom, how the Motor City Machine Guns came in and like they're just right in there. The fans have accepted them. There's no like, oh wait, who are these people? I don't know them. I got to get used to them. Like they're just right in there. And I think that is kind of a testament to not only how they brought them in and how they've presented them, but I think most fans, even if fans really don't watch anything outside of WWE, they're aware more or less of kind of the history of overall pro wrestling, even outside of WWE. So, people may have never watched TNA or may never watched one of their matches, but go, oh, I've heard of these guys. They've been in TNA and ROH and, they're legends. So I think that's definitely a big plus for them coming in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really one of the things that I think that's really supporting the whole industry is the interconnectivity between companies. Like we've seen the WWE ID program was announced this week, and we've seen, and it's like a watch list. Like it's here's who we're paying attention to. Although I will say, I listened to Brett Lauderdale from GCW today was talking about Jack Cartwheel, and there's money involved there. It's not just hey, we're paying attention to this person. There's a financial compensation for someone being on that announcement. He said it. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's a contract or hey, here's $50. I don't know. But he said this. He said being part of this program,
you get 2 hot dogs today.
2 hot dogs. 1 handshake though.
Yeah. Let's gotta go crazy. There's a budget.
So I look at a guy like Jack Cartwheel and I go, okay, we've been fans of Jack Cartwheel on like GCW, and we've seen him in AEW and a couple other places, and now he's in this this ID program, which is kind of like a feeder system. So you've got the indies, you've got this feeder system, you've got NXT main roster, and then in between all this, even on the side, but not really, you've got TNA feeding talent to like WWE, and not much feeding talent. I would say more of a talent exchange. Like I love the exchange that they're doing, and I keep saying it. I'll say it again this week. I want TNA to get a bigger shine. I want them to see bigger WWE stars on their programming. But I do think that whole program just
Stands now.
The
The king of
think-
cream. The head
King
of
of
the
cream.
dessert table.
Nice. I think it's a really smart thing to do, and it also gives some legitimacy to some of the independent companies. Yes, of course, it's it's Cody Rhodes and Booker T and those people, but it doesn't matter. It lends a lot to those folks. Plus, their independent booking fee just went up. So
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And they did say, I guess, that just because someone's named as like a prospect does not prohibit them from taking other bookings or anything outside of WWE related
Yes.
stuff. So
Yeah.
they're not signing a contract with them, seemingly. So it's a very interesting thing. Seth and I were talking about it earlier today. I kind of guessed that maybe what they're doing is trying to set up a system similar to like sports, like in football, like I know Sports Illustrated and ESPN and others will come out with like their, top high school football players that the industry is keeping an eye on, kind of
Right.
thing. So, I kind of equated it similar to that. It's not necessarily saying that they will be working for WWE or even, are signed or anything yet, but it's something that the top dog in the entire industry is saying that this is a person we're keeping an eye on, and you should too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, one of the things I think we've been talking about, so I want to give a nod to Busted Open this week because I thought this week was a really, really good week of shows. I like the way that they've shuffled some of the hosts. Putting Thunder on Wednesdays makes sense because she's worked with a lot of the NXT talent. She's does a good job reviewing. I think Nick on Thursday is a lot of fun. He does a good job breaking down the AEW stuff, and I love hearing Sam and Dave on Fridays. It's a great weekend vibe. They're both really energetic, well-informed, positive fans. Maybe Dave's a little less positive sometimes, especially with Ridge Holland.
Wow.
But I do like this new lineup. I like this. I like how everything's sort of shuffled into place. And the interviews this week have been great too.
Yeah,
I very much agree. It was a great week to listen to Busted Open. I really, really love Nick on the show. I know we all kind of say it every week. He just has an extremely interesting perspective, but he's fun and funny. And it's just, even when he just says random one-liners or insanely sarcastic comments, he's just really fun to listen to and look at.
He's so subtle because he's a comedian. He's a professional comedian. So he has these little things. And Bully calls in and he's like, I want to give you credit for blah, blah, blah. He goes, I didn't care for it, but, other people did. And it's like, he just throws these little things out. And you have to pay attention because he does that a lot. But with regards to Busted Open, one of the segments that they did this week that I thought would be fun, we had talked about bringing it to the show, was the matches that made us. And that was Sam and Dave talked about, matches that brought you into being a fan of professional wrestling. I have a shit memory. So
do I.
I can't specifically say. Well, I can't specifically say that there was one match. What happened was, I went to watch her. So I'll kick this off, but we're gonna share some matches that really lent to our fandom. So when I was a little kid, I was in Cub Scouts, and we would go see the matches, and I think I saw Andre. I don't really remember. I was like 8 years old. So, but I remember big wrestler people doing their thing, and so I wasn't really a fan at that point. But that was the first time I had seen wrestling live. And then, like, really through the Attitude Era, I became a fan. And Mick Foley was always my guy. Something about him, like, I thought he was cool. I thought he was not your normal jacked up dude. He seemed impervious to pain. And what we know now, I probably would view it differently. But at the time, the I Quit match with The Rock definitely was one of those matches that at the time I thought was like, holy crap, people say this is fake. Well, this isn't fake. Like, these guys are literally beating the shit out of each other with chairs. And another match that, of Mick's, of course, Hell in a Cell with Undertaker was one of those things that, decades later and decades to come, they're always going to talk about. That's going to be the quintessential cage match or Hell in a Cell match, and the psychology and hearing all the behind the scenes stuff about what really went on made me appreciate the match even more. But one match I wanted to talk about, I sort of drifted away for a while and I came back in 2011. I casually kind of watched when NXT hit, and I saw the 2012 YouTube version of it. And then when the network launched, I was like, okay, they're finally doing women's wrestling the right way, because I've always been a fan of women's wrestling, but they never really showed it in WWE in a way that was credible.
Right.
So to me, when people say, okay, give me a women's wrestling match that I can go watch and say, yes, this is what I'm into. And it's always going to be Sasha Bailey. Brooklyn won a takeover for me in 2015.
Yes.
I will put that match up against any match ever. Like, I think the story was incredible. The women set a standard that few could meet at the time. And it forced the audience of that brand, forced the main roster and the main roster audience to completely shift.
Yes.
And I just, so those are a couple of mine.
Okay. I'll go next. I did write out 5, but I'll just run through them really quickly. What?
Is it laminated?
It is not laminated. No, it's on a notepad.
Oh, okay. That's not official.
So I've told this story a bunch of times, but if there's anybody new watching, I got into wrestling later in life, like in adulthood, because a friend of mine that I became very close friends with through the job that I had at the time, when I was in college, he watched wrestling and he pretty much said, hey, if you're going to be hanging out at my house, wrestling's going to be on TV, so you're going to be watching it. All right, whatever. But my becoming a fan was a very gradual process. So like so many people talk about, like, this was the match that I watched and I was like immediately into it. I was like, oh my God, I love this. That's not the case for me. My fandom came very gradual over years of just casually watching. But I can say, thinking back, the first actual match that I remember watching that made me, like, the story made me invested as a fan was Roxy Mania 28. That was the first match, the actual match that I can remember as I was going back and looking through the history of like previous WrestleManias and stuff. It was the first thing I can remember that got me invested. And before I really started watching wrestling, like, of course, I knew of The Rock from movies and stuff, and I knew that he had been in wrestling. I remember when I was a kid, kids in school, like when Rock and Austin and all that stuff was hot. I remember kids in school talking about it. So I had a very, very, like, just ancillary knowledge of who The Rock was. But that one was Rock Cena Mania 28 was the first time I actually got to see Rock in wrestling. Because he had been away in Hollywood, and I started watching wrestling while he wasn't there. So that was the first time that I actually got to see him on WWE. So that was something that really, really brought me in. The next thing that I can remember that brought me in as a fan was when Daniel Bryan won the WWE Championship at Mania 30. I think we all remember just the Yes movement and the
Miracle on Bourbon Street.
Just the whole fan swell that was happening at that time, that the fans were not happy with the direction things were going, and Daniel Bryan was their guy. So that was another one for me. And then fast forward to one that I know you, Front Row, was at personally, was the Hardys' return to Mania in 2017. I had known that the Hardys were at Impact, and I had seen stuff on social media that, there was some sort of falling out when they left Impact. I had heard about the Broken Matt character and everything that was happening there and how different it was. And to see them return to WWE at WrestleMania, I was like, okay, cool. This Broken Matt universe thing that I've been hearing about, I finally get to see it. Well, we know what happened after that. But that was one of those moments for me as a fan that I was like sucked into the story. And then my last two, real quick, shifting over to AEW, was Cody and Dustin at Double or Nothing 2019, AEW's first show. I know Dave talks about it as his favorite AEW match that they've had so far. And I pretty much agree that that was probably the first match that I ever cried at. So that definitely, and because it was like the kickoff to AEW, it really brought me in as a fan and made me go like, oh my God, I really love the show. I love what they're doing here. And then the last one I had, after doing some thinking and trying to think of something else, MJF Bryan Danielson Iron Man match of Revolution last year. I think that was just, I remember watching that match going, oh my God, this is just freaking incredible. There was a lot of talk about, could MJF do an Iron Man match? Could he last that long? Bryan Danielson had, made the big return, and just, it was just perfect. It was perfect and it was awesome. So that's my 5.
Very
John?
cool. Yeah, just real quick, it was pretty incredible at Mania 33, and it's the only Mania I've been to, so I got lucky and went to the right one. 77,000 people shook. You were there, John.
Yeah.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, I was. We didn't know each other then, and probably might have even sat near each other and never knew it. But yeah, we were
maybe.
baking.
Yeah, we did not have the
in the
expensive
sun.
seats. Holy shit, was it hot there?
Oh.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know what a turkey feels like.
Okay, so I want you to go. I want you to share, but I also want to leave a couple minutes because that announcement. I did want to get to the announcement before we sign up, but you go.
All right, I'll just be quick because like you guys, I have seen so many matches, so many things. It's hard to pinpoint one that like really defines it. But the very first one is October the 15th. 1979.
Oh, you go way back.
A young John in South Jersey, who was actually John from the Jersey Shore then, for his 8th birthday, was taken to a live wrestling show. First one he had ever seen. My grandmother, God rest her, knew I was a big fan. Every Saturday, they knew where to find me after cartoons were over. I was scanning whatever 8 channels we had at the time, because it was before cable, trying to find wrestling. And I had a chance now to see the guys on TV live. And I'll never forget, the main event was Professor Teru Tanaka and Mr. Fuji versus the then tag team champions Larry Zbyszko and Tony Garea for the tag team titles. It was the most amazing thing that I had ever seen, because these were the guys. It was like watching the video game come to life, or the TV become 3D, because these were these guys that I had watched on TV weekly, religiously, were now right in front of me, and I could see the hits and the impacts and the sweat and the blood coming off them and all that. And that day, definitively, I was hooked. I'll fast forward over a lot of things. I won't go into anything ECW because that's an entire section.
Yeah, there's too much. Don't be Tommy. Don't do a separate list just for that.
Yeah, no. But the two things that absolutely stand out in my mind from Ring of Honor, and they're two of the same match and different consequences, but one guy was still involved. Jay Briscoe, God rest him. And the 2 fights without honor, one that he had with Kevin Steen, now known as Kevin Owens, and the other with Adam Cole, Bebe, centering around the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. If you don't watch anything else of the Ring of Honor, the clips of it are on YouTube. Watch those 2 matches, especially the Jay Briscoe, Adam Cole, the lead up to the match and the final match without honor for the title. It is absolutely fantastic storytelling and build up, and an absolutely incredible match to watch. Staying going forward, something that reinvigorated me comes from AEW. And in my opinion, it's the greatest trilogy ever told. FDR and the Briscoes.
That was my honorable mention
about centering around, and the story that they told over that almost entire year was, and it's very bittersweet because shortly after that we lost Jay, and but that absolutely, I was like, damn it, because, and I'm not going to go down a long road. The Briscoes were forever the greatest tag team you never heard of because no one ever saw them. And this trilogy with FTR absolutely put them on the stage they so rightfully deserved and needed to be on for such a long time. And they were finally getting the flowers and the accolades and the recognition that they deserved, and have it just suddenly go away, tragically. And last week, if not nothing else, Bryan Danielson, his last match with Jon Moxley. That just occurred when he lost the title. Because again, it was like, wow, this is an end of an era. And I go back with Bryan Danielson to American Dragon original in Ring of Honor. So it's been quite the long ride with me knowing him, seeing him, being a fan of his up until that point. And it's one of them things like, now what? You know, and it's happened before. You know, you say, what's wrestling look like? What does wrestling look like without Bryan Danielson? And that's, you know, something we're gonna have to go through and realize going forward. But those are just a few highlights for me. You know, like you said, I can't. My memory is shit also, and there's just so much that I really couldn't do it. I couldn't come up with a list of 5 in an hour, much less any longer than that. So I will let that get to your announcement, Front Row, because I do want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that Kevin Steen was now Kevin Owens, which I think is interesting. And fun fact, Adam Cole is now Adam Cole in AEW. So that's pretty cool. But on SmackDown last night, General Manager Nick Aldis made this huge announcement about the wild success and ridiculous amount of talent on the women's roster in WWE right now. He said SmackDown because it's his brand, but he then goes on to announce that there's now a women's United States Championship. And I think this is fantastic. I don't like the idea of overloading a company with championships, but there's so many talented people that there's a bottleneck at the championship level, at the main event level right now. And having this workhorse title, mid-card title, I don't care what you want to call it. It gives a lot of folks an opportunity to shine and to fight for something. It gives one of the things that we were in Discord last night with Sam Roberts, and he was saying, you know, this is going to be a huge opportunity to showcase NXT talent, to either whether they're call-ups or their appearances. So let's speculate wildly. Who do you guys think would be the best choice, or who do you think will win the inaugural spot as champion?
I think there's only one answer, and that is Chelsea Green.
Okay.
I think Chelsea Green has to be that inaugural champion. And thank you, Sam and John. I think it's just an absolute no-brainer. I mean, come on. She's one of the highlights of the show every freaking week. And obviously right now she's not going to be like in the main title picture with the story that's happening right now. So literally there's no other answer. Come on.
John?
I have a different answer. So yes, there is a different answer. And Mike, and this, I don't care. Go fuck yourself. Disagree with me all you want. Mia Yim.
See, Stan Styles agrees with me. Come on.
Pander to the guy. That's all right. Mia Yim. Absolutely Mia Yim.
All right.
Okay, that's interesting because if I don't know if you guys both listened to Busted Open today, but Robin said his pick was also Michin because of what she's been showing in the street fights and this new level of like physicality and violence that her character has been allowed to show, which I think is which is pretty cool. Man, I'd love to go against and pick somebody else, but Chelsea Green is perfect. The only caveat to a Chelsea Green is we've seen her hold tag team gold, and I find that she's funnier when she's chasing something. I don't know. I know it's weird because
that can be true.
we always say like she's one of those rare talents that can never win a match, never win a title. She can get squashed every week in the ring and still be one of the best parts of the show. She's just incredibly talented. But I would love to see it, and I would love to see. I would love to see the announcement of a tournament, and then R-Truth wonder why he's not involved somehow.
Oh, right. Oh, my bad. My bad, dog.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Guys, this was a really fun show. I want to thank everybody in the chat. We got a lot of people. Oh, I want to bring this up. So, Stan, I appreciate you giving a shout out to Ren Sinclair. I've had the opportunity to work with Maddie when she was in Mission Pro, and she is an incredible talent. She's incredibly funny, and I'm really glad that she's getting a chance to show her personality on TV because she's even funnier than what you're seeing. Trust me. Just wait. I'm very, very happy for her success.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well,
we got Collision on TV right now. It's about to be House of Black versus Savages.
Who cares? Malachi's leaving. Don't you read the internet?
Oh, stop it.
I heard he quit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's out.
Yeah, well, someone's about to go to Titty City right now. So
listen, Brody King would not lie to me. And he said that he's leaving and creating a cat circus. I have no reason. Brody King has never lied to me.
Yeah, Dirt Sheet's not batting 1,000 this week.
No, not at all.
All right, folks, where can everybody find you on the socials? Deb?
I'm at That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine, the Instagram, and very newly, the Blue Sky. I made a Blue Sky profile. Same name. Find me there.
You're a skywriter now? Could if I give you money, you'll put my name in the clouds?
I could.
Oh, okay. All right.
You pay me
We'll
enough.
talk. Okay, we'll talk.
More than a hot dog?
Click the link. Forget all that. Click the link.
Well, that's true there. You said it, so I don't have to. There you go.
John?
I am at Twisted Metal Fab on the Instagram and the Twitter. Shout out, as always, hashtag thank you, Deb. Nation's Corner on location, and just because he was nice enough to join us tonight, shout out to Stan Styles and Intergender Bonanza, who have their next show coming up Thursday, November 21st at Tremont's H2O Wrestling Center in Williamstown, New Jersey, which I will be attending. Yes, Stan, I will be DMing you this week for my ticket. Super fun. If you want, check out their stuff on IWTV under Intergender Bonanza. Great show. Always a good time. Looking forward to this one. Coming back to New Jersey after a very successful show up in Connecticut. And also keep up with the exploits of the most dangerous weapon as featured on Intergender Bonanza in professional wrestling. Of course, I am talking about the AK9K, aka the Ass Kicker 9K. And you can keep up with him on Instagram at Ass Kicker 9K.
Speaking of traveling, Ass Kicker 9000 is going to be traveling to North Carolina in a few weeks.
Kakalaki, yes.
On location.
Yes, thanks to a misfortune with Neil. I am the recipient of said misfortune, and will be joining Front Row as we sit nearly front row for all the events of WrestleCade. Looking forward to a wonderful 3 days.
How can someone be nearly front row?
Close enough. If we stretch our legs out, we'll be in the front row. We'll be against the guardrail. Does that count? I'll pop off AK9K and rest it up against the guardrail. How's that?
There you
Is
go.
that close
Give
enough?
it to Izzy.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Just to be clear, nothing bad has happened to Neil. He just couldn't get the time off from work. He's not ill that I know of.
Yes. Well,
yeah. So we'll
that's a matter of interpretation. Are any of us really well? Honestly,
No.
I know I'm not.
Nah.
So.
I am very much looking forward to WrestleCade because it seems like every day they keep announcing more events and more people, and it feels like it's going to be pretty great. So if anybody watching this is at WrestleCade, come find us, tag us. We'll get together and hang out, do something. John and I will be there all weekend.
Yeah,
we will definitely be smoking cigars out on the corner again this year.
Yes.
So it's going to be super fun. You can find me at PW Front Row, and you can find us on our at Nations Corner on Twitter, and at the Nations Corner across all the other socials. We're working on some fun stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to make some announcements soon. And I want to thank everybody for joining. Go enjoy wrestling, and we will see everybody next week. Later.